right, welcome to another episode of Runetalk. I'm your game master, Derek Melenda, joined by Nick Struna and Bob Bumgarner. And we just finished up the Skin Saw murders. The group tackled all of the challenges of the adventure, which started with a series of murders inside of Sandpoint with the strange 7-pointed Sihedron rune carved into several individuals and a mysterious connection to one of the party members, Gore. Adventurers continued to investigate the murders and eventually discovered that there was a spreading plague of ghouls which had spread across the farmlands of Sandpoint and then threatened the city itself. The group very heroically, and we'll certainly touch on that. The group very heroically intervened to save the lives of one beleaguered farm family, which were attacked by an entire regiment, if you will, of ghouls, and finally followed those ghouls back to their source, which was the ancient ancestral Foxglove Manor known as the Misgivings. The group investigated the haunted home and in the basements beneath discovered that the Skin Saw man responsible for these murders and for the strange connection to Gore was none other than Aldern Foxglove, the same nobleman who they had saved all the way back at the beginning of the first adventure. After dispatching and beating the Skin Saw man, they discovered that he was but a pawn to a larger group being led by some strange being or creature known as Xanisha, who seemed to serve some sort of strange cult or leader that was connected to the 7-pointed star. The group followed those leads into Magnamar, whereupon they followed the leads that led them to a confrontation with Xanisha, who turned out to be a Lamia, a strange half-snake, half-woman being who served a fallen Runelord. Mm-hmm. Now, Xanisha intended to flee before the group could, defeat her or apprehend her, but some hot dice and hero point action from Azius put an end to Xanisha. And despite seeming like that was sort of the end of it, it turns out that Xanisha is a player in a...
I feel like that just keeps happening.
Yeah, well, it's because of the size and the scope. And so the last thing that you guys found was a letter from Xanisha's sister, presumably also a Lamia, who wrote in detail about this elaborate process that it seemed like they were collecting and harvesting greedy souls, and that the mark of the 7-pointed rune is sort of used in a ritual to transfer the greed in those souls to some mystical place, whereupon empowering, if you will, the imminent return of the Runelord that they serve, which would obviously be very, very, very devastating. And so thus ended chapter 2, the Skin Saw murders, which, I think we only ended up taking about 6 sessions to go through those adventures, as opposed to the 12 that the first one took. And I think that is attributed to a couple of things. I think the first one, which I think I want to talk about first, well, actually, let me get back to that real quick. The other notable another notable bit of this adventure was we had some cast changes.
Oh,
yes, we did.
You might have noticed.
You may have noticed. And I do want to talk about that a little bit. We had Nick, who is obviously a friend of the group, friend of the family, had fallen in love with the group, has never played RPGs before.
Nope.
Never played Pathfinder, never played D&D.
Correct.
He watched our episodes
religiously.
He binge watched them like it was a Netflix special. And when Danny was going to be out one day, we invited Nick to come in, and he had dedicated himself to the rules, learned them very well, I might add. We had a great time with him, and of course, if you see our table setup, we have a physical space for 4 players with one remote player in the form of Danny, but we made it for 4 because why not, right? Mm-hmm. Which worked out well when Danny was home, but presumably he's only going to be home once a year. So we knew we had a physical spot available, so we made the opening available to Nick. So Nick kind of came in and joined us.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Brought a whole new dimension to the group, a new character. Nick came in hard with some hard role playing and knew the adventure better than some of the knights because he had just watched it all back to back to back. And then, of course, a few sessions later after that, Rory, who plays Gore, his life got pretty hectic, pretty chaotic. And, it's a game. So there's no
real life.
Yeah, that's real life.
We all have real jobs, real families.
Exactly.
We got to take time off. So
Gore came to us, Rory came to us and said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to make it anymore for the foreseeable future." And we were all bummed to hear that. Rory's a good friend of ours.
Yeah, and he's sweet in the show. Yeah,
and quite frankly, Gore was kind of the heart and soul of the team. But we had to respect that decision. And of course we have a story that goes on. And I think this is something, Bob, you've talked about before, and we've heard it from you guys in the comments. Yeah, we're not paid actors. Nope. We're just doing this for fun. And honestly, I've played a lot of D&D campaigns. This shit happens all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I don't care what you're doing, whether it's a softball league or it's a D&D game.
You need subs.
People come and go. I mean, people's priorities changes. And for 99% of us out there, this is not priority number one.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
And so when things come up in your life and you have to step away, you step away and the game goes on. You make the changes that you can. And there was a good opportunity for us, and that's what you do as a dungeon master. That's what you do as a group.
I think that's actually a really talented skill as a dungeon master, is to be able to adapt to changing heads.
And to make it so that it's a nice, flawless fit with the story, and not just, so-and-so suddenly died or so-and-so suddenly left. No, you tied it in well with
the cheap way
story.
He died.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. But Nick's here.
Oh, hey, who are you? Okay, no, it all made sense. It tied well with the storyline.
Sure.
And it was a flawless way too, because we know that, Rory's not potentially out for good. There is a potential for him to come back the way you ended it. It wasn't just, we killed him off. Bye, Rory. Have a nice day. It was, no, he went, and
went with Shalelu back to Sandpoint.
Correct. So there's the option that we could meet up with him again in the future.
I like to think that he took over as town sheriff.
There you
could
go.
see that.
I could definitely see that.
I think that's pretty sweet. I was thinking about that the other day.
Oh yeah.
So
Officer Hemlock.
Yeah. Hemlock goes, okay, you know what? I'm retired. You're a high level fighter.
Yeah.
He's gonna,
we think you can hand your own.
Right. Him and Shalelu, they're not settling down, right? So, as he put it, Rory put it in the one episode. And so I think. But, and I would say to anybody out there who's a game master, don't just rely on yourself. Ask your players, right? It's I cannot stress this enough. It's a collaborative story.
Right.
You don't have to keep everything to the chest. You don't have to make sure that, that you're the only person who knows what's going on. If something's happening, talk to your players and say, hey, what's some good ideas, right? Because the best idea that you have is probably like the worst idea that the group has, right? Because
that's usually my idea. The worst one.
Well, yeah. Right. So
I got this great idea.
The alcohol-induced one.
Well, and that happened in the when we'll get to that point about the jail cell. I was like, I got a great idea. And then like Matt's and Rory's idea was way better than mine.
Way better.
Yeah, and so you just go with what's good. And then the other flip side of that was at the very end of the adventure, another buddy of ours, his schedule opened up.
Right.
And he said, dude, I'd love to join you. You know? And that was kind of quite independent of Rory leaving. It just so happened that we had a space after Rory's departure, and we weren't planning on bringing in a new person, but we said, why not? So so Tim joined us with Gwildor, and that's even an example of where, reasonably, it probably would have made the most sense for him to wait and join at the start of the third adventure. But, look, he was eager to play and available, so all right, come on in. And so he joined us there for those last two sessions, you guys in Maximal.
Right.
And we had a lot of fun with that.
Well, he also brings a new dynamic because he has role-playing experience, a lot of it. So
yes.
It's like, he's actually prepared.
Yes. Yeah. He knows what he's doing. We're over here like, we can do this, right?
Yeah.
Game Master, you're allowing this? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And again, I think that, for a lot of tables, you're going to have new players, you're going to have experienced players. And I think new players can learn from old players. But honestly, too, Tim has told me how he, in some ways, has learned from you guys, right? Because he has a certain set way of thinking. You're stuck in your mold. So I think having a group like that, the danger is that the new players constantly defer to the experienced player,
right?
And basically say, well, or the experienced player kind of takes the reins
and runs with it,
just runs the game. And as long as anyone, just be an adult, have an adult conversation, respect people's personal space.
Well, and we all have like all A-type personalities at that table, so everyone wants to do what they want to do in a sense.
Right. And so so we had a variety of cast changes, and the game continues. I can't promise you that everyone who's still playing today will be there at the very end. I sincerely hope so. But really, the only person who has to really be there every week is me. So
yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be weird if you weren't there.
Yeah, I don't think we could.
I've
we'd have to
always-
postpone. I think.
I've been DMing for 25 years or something. I've always been fascinated by the idea of a campaign where you have multiple dungeon masters.
Whoa,
Right?
That'd be
'Cause
interesting.
a lot
so
of
you
times-
don't know the whole story?
Well,
Because like,
so
you know what I mean?
part of it is, something I'd love to, experiment with this group.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Along with this channel is sort of introducing these guys to more, we were joking because when I was setting up my stuff here, by the way, we're actually in Bob's basement.
Yes.
Yeah. Look
we're
at this
actually-
great table.
Thank you, Bob.
So we're sitting at the game table made of solid walnut that Bob and I built earlier this year. He was going to get a wormwood table, but there was a Kickstarter problem and it was back ordered a million years. So he said, "Oh, screw it. I'm not paying, $3,000 just to get a table in 2 years." So we built this bad boy for
like 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months.
Very nicely done. Very
for
nicely
a
done.
third of the price,
For a third of the price. Well, even better, right? Because it's made of walnut instead of maple.
Yeah, and it's nice.
Yeah,
That was very sharp. Very nice.
Seems, I was worried because he's got 2 young kids, and I was worried how it's going to hold up. But it looks like it's holding up pretty well.
I think it's nice.
I think he's overprotective with it.
What
are you doing by my table?
They play Legos and throw stuff on it, but no, they're pretty good. Well, they know not to.
Well,
bang it.
you'd be jamming.
Yeah, they're
into it.
not.
But again, that's the beauty of it. If it does get really messed up, you just sand
walnut.
it, and you just
All
you'll be
local
fine.
here too. It's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. So,
So thank you for being here, and we continue Rune Talk as you transition to your new space.
Yes.
right. So that's the plan. The plan is we're going to get ourselves a new space, and we kept the table and we kept the setup, and so we're going to keep producing content because we really appreciate everything that everybody's been doing and saying and commenting on us. And
It's awesome to see the comments.
Oh, yes,
sure.
definitely.
Yeah, so please comment because that's really great. So
Like, subscribe, comment, all of the above.
yeah,
Come
we're
on.
not the best at
Promoting it.
it.
we
but-
just like to have fun, and then we're like,
exactly. We just
Just
go
if
in
you
there.
like it too, subscribe.
Yeah. Just an average guy.
So let's talk about then. So one of the couple things I wanted to talk about, I have a couple list is so number one, so this adventure.
Okay.
First things first. And again, some of this is some of these questions are specifically addressing things that folks have said in the comments.
Okay. Perfect.
As well as just my own personal take. So one of the takeaways that someone had said after the first series of adventures was, it's a lot of fighting and rolling and stuff like that. And there's other parts to the game, which is a very fair assessment, especially the first adventure, pretty combat heavy. So the second adventure, very different.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
In
yeah.
fact, the first 2 sessions,
We're like,
first 2 episodes, I don't think there was a single, I think you guys fought that crazy guy who,
I don't know if that's
and that's not even really a
Yeah,
fight,
that's
right?
right.
It's more like
scuffle.
debaying their god and killing
Yeah,
them.
exactly. So,
almost,
the first 2 sessions, very little fighting. The third session, you guys fought those ghouls, but then that was big.
Right.
4th session was exploring the haunted house, right? Some very little combat there. So this was a very different, there were a lot more skill checks, a lot of diplomacy and intimidate and, making NPCs and putting puzzles and clues together. So I just kind of want to hear from you guys as your perspective. I know you obviously didn't play in the first session, but coming into the game with the understanding from the first series of episodes. So how was that experience?
So coming in, not knowing the rules, not knowing the combat and everything, and I know it's a very dynamic system, which is nice about Pathfinder. It's not just some of the other ones like D&D, go attack, move, attack, move, attack. There's a lot more involved, a lot more actions, reactions, and it's like the first time I got there, we didn't do any combat. I think I rolled maybe twice, but that was okay because I was shitting bricks, not knowing what to do, in the very beginning. And so thank you guys for putting up with me, teaching me everything that I need to know with it and all that. But it was really refreshing though, to come into it and say, all right, this isn't just combat. This is a story. This is a role-playing thing. And you do a great job with not just saying, okay, we're at a house. No, you paint the picture very nicely so you can envision it in your head. And you can actually picture it, and you're saying, okay, I'm walking through this corridor, not just, all right, yeah, he walks through there. No, there's a total mentality shift difference. Like, wow, that's a really gory scene you're walking into, and
Right.
blood all over the place, and the sawmill and everything. And it's like, okay, well, what's going on here? And doing those kind of weird investigative tasks or events was really nice to see that it's not just we're just a hack and slash game.
Sure.
So it was a nice different dynamic that I thoroughly enjoyed. And for being my first time into it, kind of easing into it, it was a great way to do it.
So what about you, Mr. Azius? You know, Mr. Barbarian Giant Instinct.
I mean, it's cool to fight.
2d12 plus 30 damage.
Don't get me wrong, it's cool to fight. And again, as you've talked about in D&D and other things, it's mostly a combat-driven game these days. There's tons of rules on combat. But it was cool. Those first 2 episodes of second session or second chapter really were fun. I felt like I was in some kind of mystery story, and that Matt and like Nick were trying to figure out solving with me and Gore, and then Vilix sort of being quiet a lot of times. But yeah, we were like really trying to solve this out. Now, I love a good fight. Don't get me wrong. Thing about the fighting though is I think it takes a long time. So what's cool about and more exploration or solving things is you can do a lot of things like the jail cell. Well, we're going to stand outside and maybe we'll go down to the morgue. You know, there's lots of more fun stuff you can do, I think. So you can add a lot more into it. But at the same time, I like rolling the dice. So whatever rolls the dice, I feel like that's kind of what I want to do. Yeah.
And I think that's a second. So that's kind of a good segue into something that I, so and I'll phrase this question, right? So one of the things about role playing, so there's this term that's get used on the internet pretty ubiquitously, which is like role playing. And what most people nowadays take that to mean is, I'm talking like this, and we're discussing.
Oh, interesting.
And we're discussing whether or not you will aid me in my attempt to overthrow the Baron.
You mean Critical Role?
Yeah. I mean voice acting.
Yeah.
And I mean talking in a funny voice, and I mean playing out your character. The problem with that is it's a game. Okay. So if your character is good at combat, they have a high roll to hit, and you roll the dice, and we see if you hit. Right? Now you can describe that. You should describe that. Sometimes the game can get a little frantic and excitement on its own. But if your game has basically devolved into monster A attacks, 4 damage, monster B attacks, miss, you attack, I attack, 5. If that's your game, I mean, you could probably do a little bit better than that. But my point is, I don't care how well you describe something. I don't care if you go into intimate detail about how intricate your attack is and how you throw him off guard with a well-timed parry. You could say a whole essay. I'm going to say, that sounds great. Okay, let's see the attack roll. Yeah. Right? No one's ever going to say, you're right, that sounds great. You hit. So the same thing's true for me. For when people talk about role-playing scenarios, for me, that just means you're always role playing because you're always playing your character. Right. I don't typically go into adventures with my hammer and smash down undead. So I'm doing something different. I'm playing the role of a dwarf barbarian, right? Regardless of whether or not I'm talking in a funny voice.
Aaron does a good job in your other campaign that I'm part of.
Sure.
I noticed that when I do it, I'm gonna swing my hammer down.
Yeah.
And Aaron's like, I draw magical energy into this, and then I imbue it into the sword. I'm like, sounds really cool.
I mean,
Tim did the same thing too. Yeah. When he first came into the group, he's like describing his character.
It's kind of cool.
So we'll talk
a little bit is good.
Yeah.
A lot of it, maybe too much.
Agreed. And we could talk about like having more authority to seize narrative control, which is something I think is a very important thing to enjoy the game as a player. Okay. And certainly players who have played with me for longer are much more comfortable seizing narrative control. But when it comes to things like talking to the guard, okay, well, in this game, I don't care how good Bob is at talking. What I care is how good is Azius at talking. Gotcha. And that's represented by the diplomacy skill. Mm-hmm. And if you put points in diplomacy and you put skill training into diplomacy instead of, say, athletics, you've given up some aspect of your character to be better at another aspect of your character. And if I just ignored that and just said, oh, that was a really good idea. Yeah, that works.
But sometimes you do. I mean,
with some leeway though.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going totally off the reservation
and saying,
a game. Yeah, that's great. Let's go with that.
And that's my point. It's still a game,
right?
Mm-hmm. So when Burl was in that jail cell,
God,
right?
I love that thing.
He was like, "Oh, I'm in here too with you, and it's great." Yeah, that's a great reasoning. I'm glad he made it. Yep. Okay, let's see the diplomacy check.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, you're lying. Make a deception check, because otherwise the game doesn't become about your character and the challenges. It becomes, how well can you convince me?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's a very different game. And that's not necessarily the game that people signed up to play.
Right.
Now, and for anybody who says, well, that's not role playing, I challenge you the opposite, because I would think if I'm playing a character who has a poor diplomacy skill, then I am doing a bad job of playing my character. If I'm over there making
amazing
speeches and stirring speech, my guy should be the guy who comes in, they want to sweet talk the prisoner. And he says, if you don't listen to us, we'll just kill you. That diplomacy check. Okay, I got a 2.
Yeah.
Makes sense. That's right. That's horrible. He's
right.
bad at this.
Yeah.
I'm bad at this. Like, I shouldn't try to overcome that just by, talking and things like that. What you should do is play your character.
Yes.
In fact, I'm a big believer especially in situations like that, is set up the scenario, discuss with your players, you can even talk in game terms, what it is that you're trying to do. Well, I want to make sure he understands that we're friends of his, and so you're trying to change his attitude from being kind of indifferent to friendly. Okay. Well, that's a make impression check, which uses your diplomacy skill. Yeah. Okay, we're clear. Okay, great. Roll the die. Okay, what'd you get? A 7? Okay, great. Now,
what'd you say?
Right. Now, so now you know how this is going to end.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to end badly.
Yeah.
So instead of you coming in there and trying to be like really hamming it up, we know from a start point, right? Because that
adds I think, a fun humor.
Well, that's the skill of role playing. Yeah. The challenge, right? The challenge of the combat is remembering all of your abilities and how do I position myself to get the maximum number of benefits.
Oops.
The challenge, you guys. The challenge of role playing is obviously I want to make a compelling argument and I want to convince these people to help us. But I rolled a 6 and my character is not good at diplomacy and has a bad charisma. So now what I, the player, want to do is different from what my character and the die roll say I need to do. So for me, the fun part of playing it is now going, okay, now I have to change what I'm going to say. I have to change what I'm going to act in line with my character and this dice roll. Mm-hmm. The same way that, Escanor has this tenets of Iomede and has all of these anathemas of what he can and can't do and what he has to do in this order of priorities. Nick, the player, might be like, I just want to kill these people and go.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
But Escanor and Escanor's anathemas are different from that. And so that is role playing. You don't have to speak in a funny voice to do that.
Correct.
Right. You're making different decisions because of what you rolled or because of what's written on your sheet. That's role playing.
And I think too, with the fact that you make us roll first, it helps to influence that.
Absolutely.
It's like, hey, I rolled really high. You get super excited, and then it automatically brings a whole nother dynamic to what you're going to do, what you're going to say, or anything like that. I mean, how many times have we had a crit, and it's just like, oh my God, give him all that information that he needs, or exactly. Double the damage, and we're like, oh, we're going to kill him.
I mean, crits should be fun. And, and I think, because I've seen it too many times where someone goes it's very impassioned plea, and they're like, they make this amazing case that's logically, you're like, I didn't even think of that. That's brilliant. And then they roll and it's a nat 1. Or you could say, no roll necessary, which is fine for certain types of games. I don't think it's fine for of a D&D or a Pathfinder game where you have very codified skills, because what if my character had 8 charisma, no training in diplomacy, and didn't take anything? And whereas you have put all this effort and stuff in your character, the same way I would never let Burl goes, goes Cap America style. I pick up Azius's destiny, and I swing it with all this awesomeness, and and I was a chosen one, and I'm like, yeah, Burl, you're right. No need to roll. You crit. You do 150 damage.
It's amazing.
Okay, to be fair, we probably would all think that would be pretty.
That would be pretty sweet. Not gonna lie, that would.
But I mean, it would be cool the one time, right? So I think playing within, rather than fighting against the game,
work with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And when you roll bad, you go with the punches, and the game doesn't end. You just keep moving on. So I think that was, one of the things that I was interested to see was there was a lot more skill checks, and, we had some good rolls. But then when we got to Have's Sanatorium, there was a series of you rolled a nat 1 on your intimidation check.
Yeah. On a guy who's super trained, or no, I think I was an expert in intimidation.
Yeah, I think you're an expert in intimidation.
Just totally ruined it.
And, because the other thing too is there's a common thing, which I don't like, which is, your hero, especially once you've got a couple levels under your belt, your characters are, They're the cream of the crop. These are professionals.
Right.
You might be trained. You might be expert. You might be master. So when someone rolls a nat 1 and I see people describe it, even like, not even on like YouTube, you know, just at your own home table. And I see other people playing the game and, you know, the expert in stealth rolls a nat 1 and then everyone starts laughing and the GM goes, oh, you know, you drop your keys and they scatter all over the floor. It's like, no, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
This person is the creme de la creme. They're not goofy.
Yeah.
You know, you shouldn't be like playing them for
think
laughs.
he said something like he just doesn't believe, like the other guy
has a higher perception.
He
Noticed them.
He just noticed it a little better.
It's he saw the shadow move behind him and it caught his attention. It's
right. Whenever possible, especially if it's a situation where you rolled poorly, it's not that you did badly. It's that the situation was extremely tough.
That's what I like.
Or that there were more guards than you realized, or that guard was particularly just happened to be looking your way. It's very bad form to cast your players, these protagonists, in a buffoon light, you know, and make them look like idiots, and
unless it makes everyone laugh, because I just like to laugh and drink.
You know, and again, that, you know, D&D doesn't have to be this, you know, or Pathfinder, it doesn't have to be this serious, you know, role playing.
Rules as written, must follow all.
And if you watched our game, you know, any game with Matt Holloway is not going to be a very serious one.
You threw a 3'3" gnome into a prison cell with deception check, diplomacy check. I think he used his intimidation check too.
I don't know if he did.
No, he did not use intimidation check. I just know that when he was done, he was like, "Okay, well that sucks. We're in this together. All right, get me out of here."
He's like, his like on screen, it cracks me up.
Oh, he's hysterical.
Yeah.
He adds a nice dynamic to the
absolutely,
group.
yeah. And so I think that was a fun change of pace. You know, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, Hook Mountain Massacre, the next one coming up. We got some killing to do, you know. The next adventure's a lot of giants. Trigger, easiest trigger. A lot of giants need killing. So second thing was that I want to talk about here is you guys kind of came into your own power. Now, obviously, again, Escanor started off. Yeah, but you know, you guys came into like a new plateau, or not plateau, but a new level of power, right? In the sense that the hit points are now massive. You know, Burl has fireball. You know, your characters have these magical items. You guys are fighting. You know, you guys fought foes that turn invisible and cast fear, and you know, Tim's Gwildor is counter magicking, and there's like all these crazy magics, and you guys are getting enlarged, and now you're starting to get hasted all the time.
It's adding layers,
right? And so
he still wants to throw his brother.
Right.
wait.
So, you know, I got to say, so for some people, it's a big tone shift, right? D&D, Pathfinder, it starts off kind of gritty. You know, it's more Lord of the Rings. You know, we're fighting these orc type things, and I've got a sword and you've got a shield and I've got a bow, and it feels a lot like a Lord of the Rings film. Right. 6 or 7 levels later, you know, Gandalf is making Aragorn and Boromir giant-sized, and Gandalf is throwing waves of fire, and, you know, the enemies are turning invisible, and, you know, it's a very different experience.
Turned into an anime.
Oh, yeah. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, it
like
does.
Over the top.
It gets kind of, or I would say anime, and then eventually I would say even more towards like a superhero genre. Right, where your character starts looking like, you know, Thor, where he's, you know, jumping 200 feet into the air and slamming down. So, do you like that?
In a sense. I actually don't like mine. Some people like playing that like 3 to 5 level adventures, because like 1 and 2 are just sort of like
grinding.
Yeah, they're just boring. But I actually don't mind the low level grind. I don't know. We'll see. Just because I'm new and it's hard for me to remember everything I do, as you guys know at home, I'm forgetting my shit a lot. So the more layers, the more I have to remember. Whereas Tim, I think, has a lot of experience remembering all this stuff. Right. I'm interested to see how well I adapt as we keep growing in levels. If this becomes too complicated for me to remember, and then I start to go, it's just so much to do, or if it's like, this is so awesome, there's so much to do. So I don't know how I'm gonna feel yet. Like, whereas the one I'm running with you is a 1 through 10 level. Maybe there's always a range for certain players. Yeah, I definitely am excited to do a 1 through 20, which is what we're doing here. But I'm doing like a 3 through 5, or I think it's just a single level actually, this next one. But Yeah, I just like playing. I just like rolling dice and drinking my buddies.
And I'm just, I think one of the things about the game is that, again, it has these different, I'll call them tiers of play, where you start off as sort of like, you're a normal person, but slightly better than average. 10 levels later, your characters are flying.
I know.
And, able to, summon bolts of fire and, javelins of lightning. And it's a very different experience. And some people like that more, because you have so many different options and you can do actually not the optimal choice.
That's exactly what I was getting at. Is
suboptimal.
That's where your level cap should technically be. So when you get to those, those are the type of abilities that you want to get. So that helps to gauge what level of players, what level of character you want to build.
Right. But it can be, because here's the problem with a role-playing game, right, is you have two goals and sometimes they're conflicting, right? Because one goal is I want to play through this narrative. And I want to see the things that are going to happen.
Story and everything, yeah.
The other problem is, the other goal is I'm playing a game and I want to level up and I want to be, get more hit points and beat everything and become level 20.
Right.
Right. And so which of those wins? Right. Because you might say you know what? My character's about as complex as I want it to be. I'm pretty happy with this. I don't think any more than this is going to become overwhelming, but we're in the middle of adventure 3.
Right.
We got 3 more adventures to go. So you're like, so what do you do? Right? Like, how do you structure that? And I think that's where you just have to play, you have to play through adventures with your group. I think, we're playing Rise of the Runelords. It's a classic, but recently Paizo, the last couple of, at least I think just starting this year in 2021,
I believe it was, yeah.
Traditionally Paizo released 2 6 adventure paths a year. So, one adventure path would be January through June, 6 issues, 6 adventures, 1 through 20. And then the second half of the year, they would do another 6-part adventure, another 1 through 20. Okay. Rise of the Runelords, the same way, 6 adventures, 1 through 20. And that's the way it's been the whole time, as far as I know, through Pathfinder First Edition.
Pretty much, yeah.
But now they've changed that up. So the first one they released this year, the Abomination Vaults, is just 3. Yeah.
Oh,
and it's only 1 to 10.
Yep.
And then there's Rise of the Ruby Phoenix, which is also 3. And I think it's 11 through 20. It's 11 through 20.
Exactly what it is.
So they're doing it different.
And then they just released a one-shot a couple days ago.
And then I think at the end of the year, they're going to
pretty fun.
I think they're going to do more of a 1 to 20. And
okay.
Right. But that way, if you want to play just half the game.
I love it. The more variety, the better.
Oh, yeah.
And on the other hand, you might have people who go, I don't want to play the low levels.
That's my point. I want to like that fun.
Yeah, I want to be
super
level
11 and just go. Yeah.
So one thing I'll say, I think the coolest thing about being level 8, 9, 10, as we continue, is not me. It's what I'm going to fight. You were describing some monsters to me the other day on Discord. I'm like, holy fuck, does that thing sound ridiculous? That to me is the coolest part, because level 1, guess what you're fighting? Some goblins, some dogs in space. They're pretty cool and they're exciting, and oh my god, death's imminent. But when also you have a fire Oni giant, I'm like, holy fuck, that sounds ridiculous. And you're like, oh yeah, but this is what he can do. I'm like, oh man, this is literally a ridiculous, amazing fight. That's
I can't wait until we get to some of the later fights, and it's a big room. And there's a whole thing, and I'm putting down
100 different figures,
7 or 8 different giant-sized monsters.
Oh God,
that are each this big, and it's just you're gonna just be wading through them,
Bob's having an anxiety attack over here right now.
So that's I think that's the coolest part about the later levels. It's not that we can shoot lightning and everything. I mean, that's cool. Don't get me wrong.
It's what you get to fight.
What am I fighting?
Oh yeah.
Because it's at another level.
But again, and that's my point, where I think a good role-playing game lives in both worlds.
Yeah,
I agree.
If your game was just, okay, here's a corridor, and it goes, and every 30 feet, it opens into a room, and then there's a monster or a series of monsters. And then you fight that, and you get some treasure, and you level up, and then you go down the corridor, and then there's another room, and you fight a cooler monster. And you do that all the way to level 20, right? That's playing the game.
Right.
But without the story, the game can become pretty boring, right? Yeah. At that point, your game is pretty much really elaborate version of Yahtzee, right? Where you're just kind of rolling dice and seeing what happens.
Yeah, pretty much.
But on the other hand, this is where I probably differ from a lot of the actual plays out there. If your game is just story, well, now we're just sitting around the campfire and we're just telling stories.
Right.
Right. Which is a fine activity. I don't think it's a game, right? I think for me, as a dungeon master, as a game master, I don't know what's going to happen because we're using dice for a reason.
It's
right.
That's
it's
what
randomized.
It's random.
Rolling.
Yep.
Scenario happens.
Yeah. My friend Aaron used to say that Dungeons and Dragons is like the casino for people who don't want to lose money.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I like gambling, but I'm cheap.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I like gambling.
Yeah, you're not as cheap as me.
But how is that any different from any other game? Here's the difference. I have played, with friends. I've played like blackjack or poker or even like craps, or roulette on my phone, or you're playing with your friends and you're just playing for like potato chips.
Right.
And it's whatever. It's a distraction, but it's not fun. Okay. Because in order for gambling to be fun, you got to have something on it.
Right.
You got to have something on the line. You have $20. You got to have $50. You have $500. Okay. When you've got $500 on the pass line, right, and you're rolling, and someone else is rolling those dice, what's happening right now? We're rolling dice, and we're trying to see if we roll a number. But it feels like it's the most exciting thing ever, right? Like no NBA final, no game 7.
Am I gonna win? Am I gonna lose it all?
As exciting as that, and all we're doing is just rolling a die and looking at the number. So that's why gambling is awesome, but it's very expensive.
If you have a gambling addiction, please call the number below. Please get help. There's people out there for you.
But so you say, well, how does D&D have that? There's no money on the line, but that's where the story comes in. And that's where the investment in your character, because if the game was just, we're throwing monsters at each other and we're fighting, the game would just be like playing, blackjack.
It's almost like you're gambling your investment.
Yeah, you're gambling. Like, I'll give you a great example. Narratively, right? It doesn't cost you anything. The game would go on forever. But imagine if you guys were playing the game and you rolled poorly and made some poor decisions. And as a result, Sandpoint got burned to the ground. And the Rusty Dragon was destroyed.
Oh.
And Amico was slain. It would feel like a loss.
Yeah.
Because
especially because you've invested time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. You've sort of invested your character, your time.
And so instead of investing money, you've invested, your emotional interest into it. And that's where role-playing games are insane. That's why they're better than just a random pickup game. Because when you pick up a game of Settlers of Catan or Monopoly, your investment in the game is that 2 or 3 hours that you put into it, and then the game's over.
Right.
With a role-playing game, you've invested into this world, you've invested into these characters, and it becomes like real life stakes.
Oh yeah, it's permanent basically at that point. The stakes are, we can kill a character.
Yeah.
You could, to your point, kill an entire city, wipe it out, totally change your story. I know you joke around on it, but like, we're at a hiatus right now in between the two sessions. Sure. It's like, okay, well, how long do you guys want to be? Because, you take too long and all of a sudden the Runelords are going to come back. It's like,
absolutely.
There are things that happen behind the scenes.
I will happily throw out the entire adventure module, because the adventure module, what it says in that should never, ever be more important than what you decide to say and do. Your decisions, not the authors, should be not the dungeon masters. The player's decision is by far the most holy and sacrosanct thing in the entire game. Because the reason you're playing a role-playing game is because your real life is a 9-to-5 job.
Yep.
And, you come home to your wife and your kids, and this is an opportunity for you to do and be something entirely crazy and different. If you ever feel like my decisions and my choices don't matter, that you lost, that's the whole game. That whole game's over.
And that's one thing too that I like. I thoroughly enjoy about doing this versus regular video games. It's okay. They give you the illusion of a choice, right?
Sure.
But they do. So you have, I'm going to let this character live or that character live. But at the end of the day, it's, you still get to the same ending regardless, or a preset amount of endings. And
I'll say this. The other thing about a video game is that no matter how long you play it, you're going to beat it.
Correct. And that's what I mean. There's nothing you can do to change it.
And if you want to get the good ending, you're going to play till you get the good ending, but that good ending is going to be the same regardless of what choices you made. I mean, they might have programmed in 20 different good endings.
Yeah, but still, you have the choice in this system. You can change it depending on our choices. Absolutely. To your point, you guys took too long. You wanted to go look for treasure, and you left and you came back, and now they're alerted that you were here before. So now it's not surprise.
I'll give you a great example. I don't think anything in that book. There's no There's nothing in the adventure that says, oh, there's a 1 in 10 chance that Malfish Eknor comes back, and if they take an extra day, you add. No, I made that all up because the stakes are real, and let's find out what happens. But I didn't know what was going to happen.
Awesome.
But it makes sense.
And to be honest with you,
that roll was epic.
When he broke free, I thought, oh, these guys are all dead.
CPK.
I really did. And I'll give you another great example, right? We were discussing this before we started, the show today, that when we play the longer sessions, Night's the Last Call. Well, that last call, people start, as we get closer to the end of the session, a little bit of drunkenness kicks in. And at the end of the last episode, where you guys were you guys fought the Justice, managed to beat him, even though he was invisible, but really got your asses beat by the cultists.
Yeah.
You made your way over to the tower, the clock tower. Luckily, Tim had a great.
It was a great move. Great move. That
Clutch.
saved so much time.
But you guys made your way up to the top of that tower. I'm thinking, okay, these guys they're not at the top of their game. They're a little tired. They're a little drunk. Okay, they're a little drunk. They're a lot drunk. Okay, by the way, the reason I knew this, and I said it, I don't know, it might be in the episode, but it depends on whether I edited it. That was our last adventure.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the old studio.
Correct. Yeah, you do mention that.
Before that, there was like sort of a standing offer, which was, hey guys, we got a lot of extra beer. We got to polish off the beer.
Clean up stock.
We got to clean up the stock because we don't want to throw the beer away. And then Matt Burrell brought
more
extra
beer.
like 12-pack or 6-pack.
Yes, he did.
So everybody was smashing beers to try to dwindle through the supply.
We are the Knights of Last Call now.
Agreed. And that's fine. Look, it's totally fine. But then we get to that final fight, and I had seen what had happened with the previous fight, and I'm thinking, oh man, Xanasha's going to kick they're going to kick their ass. Her AC is high. She crawled up a statue.
I didn't know how that was going to work.
Yeah, that was wild. That was absolutely wild.
All she did was slither up a statue, and everyone was like, I don't know.
I was dumbfounded. I didn't know. What am I supposed to do?
It's like I introduced 10 feet of vertical z-axis, and everyone's like, I like half expected to people like, I guess we go home. I don't know.
Screw this. I'm out. Have a nice day. Bye.
Everyone was staring at her staring at me like, I can't
help.
And that was, we had a conversation after that session about how you got to start thinking
3-dimensional.
Well, you got to start, but you got to start thinking about invisible foes,
yeah.
Foes that can go into the ethereal plane, and foes that can fly, and foes that can climb 10-foot statues. Because
treacherous 10-foot statue.
Yeah, because she was outside of your guys' range. And you and she had reach.
Yeah, I got
you got a large spell, which was a good call, right?
Yeah.
Made you large, gave you 10-foot reach, so that was a really good call.
Villic climbed up after her too, if I recall.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah,
but it was
it was a clusterfuck.
Oh,
it was
we were all just like, this is a new dimension. We're not sure how to do this.
And we've had comments about, do you think that your hero points are overpowered? And I said, yes, I think they are very powerful. I don't know that they're overpowered, but they are very, very powerful because of their ability to turn a miss into a hit and a hit into a crit.
Right.
But again, they have to be earned, and you have to save them, and you have to use them at the right position. And if your character was getting knocked unconscious a lot and killed a lot, you might be cashing them in a lot. And so when you don't fall unconscious because you play well and you keep your defenses up and you're able to save those hero points, you get to that final round where Azius spent 3 of them to do a crit hit.
Yep.
I mean, this happened in your game too, not in this sidetrack, but it's your other game.
Sure.
Where your other players were, I swear, just spending them willy-nilly. Right. Aaron and all them are just like, I'll just put a hero point in. I'm like, maybe you guys don't understand. Hero points are pretty legit.
Yeah. So
it's the only way
I saved mine to fight that thing at the end. I killed it. I was like, that's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. So we were playing, of course, remotely with our second game. But with my other gaming group. And I was wondering about that because they were spending their hero points just because
they could.
Well, because they don't like to fail a roll.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. They just wanted to succeed at everything.
They failed. They're like, I'll turn it into success. And you're like, you do a couple more damage. Sure, I guess.
Yeah. Just missing.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. But that's because, and I've said this before too, if I ever made a RPG system, it would eliminate the miss.
Yes. I liked your system.
Because This isn't WoW. This isn't a video game. This isn't an MMORPG where in a 5-minute fight, you might attack 40 times, as fast as you can click the mouse button, in Diablo. No, in a 30-minute fight, you might get 3 or 4 turns. And if you miss on half of those,
that's a huge chunk.
It's a huge chunk of doing nothing, and to be like, what did I, it's not unreasonable to be like, the fight goes let's say the fight goes kind of quickly. It's over in 3 rounds. Let's say, the first round you miss, the second round you kind of get messed up, and then the third round you miss. You might be like, what'd you do that fight? Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nothing. Oh,
I got my ass kicked.
Yeah, it's just a bad.
Well, it's not even that. I just missed everything.
It's just a bad mojo, So, so we got about 10 minutes left for our Rune talk.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the session, about the game, about the campaign, about some of the changes that have been happening. What about you guys? Like, what do you guys? How do you feel about the campaign? What are you thinking about your characters? I know you guys have just spent a lot of gold upgrading your characters.
Well, now that you talked about it, I feel like we should wrap up and get ready to go on. I feel like I've been waiting too long making runes. Like I need to get onto this next adventure.
Yeah, no, it's
and that's a great point. So the reason why I said that is because the next adventure takes place. The note said, she's like, "Oh, good luck, sister. But if you ever get tired of Magnamar, come join me in Turtleback Ferry." And that's it.
Yeah.
When you said,
what's the exciting about it? Yeah.
What's the inciting event of Turtleback Ferry of the next adventure? It's when you arrive in Turtleback Ferry.
Yeah.
So if you never go there, that's it.
Yeah.
Game over.
Right. So
it's my ale forge.
Right. And and it's up to you guys to make. So you guys, part of being a hero is also sort of being proactive.
Yeah.
Well, but also too, it's like personally, it's like I'm invested in the story. I personally want to know how it ends. I like the storylines.
I'm telling you,
I'm
he's
sorry.
like that.
Okay, but it's not about how it ends.
How we bring it to the end. How we get there. Yes.
How it unfolds. You should be thinking about it because don't think of it as reading a book. Think of it as writing a novel.
Okay. No.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that ending, that's a suggestion. Right. That's an outline. It doesn't matter anything. Like I said, I will
unless we're super railroading.
I will.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Which you're not.
Which I'm not.
Yeah.
So instead of thinking of it thinking of it as you discovering the existing story, think of it as you writing it. Right.
Right. No, and that's what I.
You're the author.
Right, and that maybe poor choice of words in ending it. It's more of like I want to know about what is the rest of going on with the 7-pointed star.
Exactly.
What is the sister doing? Because in the note she also mentioned too. Oh, you're doing murders with the 7-pointed star on their chest. How juvenile and how inefficient it is. So obviously somebody else is doing something that's probably even worse.
Exactly.
That's and more efficient at gathering those souls. So it's like, all right.
That's exactly. And so when you ask questions, realize your character's insanely powerful.
Oh, yeah.
They're wealthy. They're powerful. They have powerful magics at their command. When you wonder about something or want something, go make it happen.
Right.
Right. Do it. That's the fun of role-playing games. Yeah. It's not just having power, but doing something with it and being like, nah, we're gonna do this instead, or I'm gonna do this instead, and like taking control of your character's destiny.
Right.
We've sort of set up that your character has this sort of divine mission to stop whatever this horrible event is from proceeding. Right. So, again, the best thing to do, put yourself in Escanor's shoes.
And that's exactly where I was gonna go next. Is that it's like not only do I want to know how the story progresses and find out the mysteries of what's really going on. With the Skinsaw murders, it was like, wait, we just stumbled upon a body on a wall, and wait, there's more bodies in a barn, outside of town, all having the 7-pointed star. Well, what the hell is going on with this? It was.
Gotcha.
It did. Really? I love a story like that, and it really envelops you, and it gets you to want to continue to uncover that mystery. But then, to your point, it's the Escanor is like, no, there's evil afoot. So you add that to my personal curiosity of what's going on with the player's mission, so to speak, of I shall end the evil.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. Don't ever let, that's what my character would do. Yeah, but if that's going to be horrible and awful for you and for anybody else at the table, don't do it. Don't do that.
That's why it says it's both for you.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Nick wants to, and his character wants to do something similar.
Right.
Yeah. So we're all good.
Right. We're on the same page.
Right.
I'm usually a really good person, but my character says I should kill everybody, so I think I should just kill everybody.
So, like a great example of this was what I was saying before. It's like, okay, there's this, the story and the thing is unfolding and, the stakes are escalating and the Runelord is trying to rise and his agents are gathering souls. And so now, now strange things are afoot,
right.
In the far east of Varesia in Turtleback Ferry. So that's like the story. But there's the game part too, where like I could go, yep, there are a bunch more goblins and they're level 1, but no. Fuck that. They're going to be level 10 giants, so
trigger again.
Right. Because that's what the game wants. That's what's fun for the game is to like, hey, I've got this awesome character. I want to throw it up against some awesome challenges. Right.
Well, that's the other thing too, is you don't want to stay at those lower levels because then you just hack and slash and it just gets boring. It's like, okay, yeah, we killed another level 1 or level -1 goblin. It's like, okay, whoop-de-doo. Like, I don't even have to use any of my feats and strategize on it. It's just I'm just going to overpower you. So what's the point?
Right. And so that's why, again, the best is when it's the best of both worlds.
Correct.
And, you're sort of kind of leaning forward to that.
Well, I got a question for everyone, even the people at home here. Because I think it'd be nice to see if they comment, if they've already made it this far. Jeez Louise. If you did, great. But what was your favorite part of chapter 2? We didn't ask this. Now, I definitely want to ask you this too. I know.
I'll answer last.
Okay.
So Bob, you asked the question.
I'm trying to think. Part of me wanted to say like when I like set the demolition charges for that fucking giant bat thing.
Yes.
But like randomly, I think the funniest thing, which is usually how I go with what the funniest thing was when well, it could be Matt in the jail cell, but
I thought you were saying Matt in the jail cell.
When Goran Vilk jumped out the window.
Yes. Oh my God.
It was the most random shit.
Where's the jump out the window? Up the steps. Shit, we got nowhere to go. Out the window we go.
I'm like, what? And I still think it's so funny. I mean, it's so dumb, but so it's almost like, okay, guys, make a decision. Well, fuck, we're jumping out the window.
Yeah.
I love it because that's what you would do.
Oh, yeah. It's realistic at the
they're
moment.
walking up the steps. What do you do? I jump out the window. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, I love it.
Make an athletics check. So, do you survive?
No,
do you take damage?
What was even better was Villic had expert catfall and Gore had trained catfall, so like they didn't take any damage.
Right.
Basically.
That's fantastic. So
for me, well, Nick, especially you. I know it's your first, but you played through all of it. You were there.
Yeah, for a whole thing.
It was good to.
So what was your favorite part?
I gotta go with just probably, and I know this is kind of gruesome and all but the investigation portion of it when we were in the sawmill. I really did thoroughly enjoy the theories that we all kind of came up with about what was kind of going on.
Every one of mine was wrong.
But we all weren't that far off though either. We're like, okay, no, something's not right. And there's a link here, and did he have shoes?
Yeah.
No.
Oh my God,
the
did that
biggest
come
question,
up a lot?
did they have shoes?
My God, that was Holloway. Yeah.
I mean, but it was those things too, because like I said, it was my first experience, so it'll always kind of be that special to me, I guess you could say. But it was more than I expected from the Pathfinder, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. So I mean, that was not my favorite part, but I will say like two things about that. So number one is I've run this. I haven't run the entire campaign before, but I have run this adventure before.
Okay.
Skinsaw Murders, and with a seasoned group of D&D players. And a seasoned group of D&D players would encounter a person who, and it was so funny to me because I in my mind I was thinking like, wow, these guys are really acting it up. They're really playing up. They're playing dumb really well, Because,
no acting there.
Because like a seasoned D&D player would see like a person who was killed with claws and teeth marks, and there was a chunk of rotting flesh that smelled horrible and made you nauseous, and we think maybe someone might have been paralyzed. And like anybody who's been playing D&D for more than a few years would immediately go, it's a ghoul. Right. Yeah. Like if you know Dungeons and Dragons, you know ghouls like the back of your hand. You're like undead. They smell really bad. They use claws and teeth. They paralyze people. Like it would have been like automatic.
Okay.
And it was fun for me because I could see that you guys really did not know. And there was like this sort of like, and it was like genuine where they were like, wait, could it be an undead? And there was like this kind of like, oh,
it's a very good possibility.
Second thing, again, not my favorite thing, but my second thing was, and again, I thought people were acting it up because again, I've read it, I've played it, I've seen it.
You overestimate us, don't you?
Well, I thought in my mind, I thought it'd been immediate, like, oh, your lordship, oh, it's Aldern Foxglove.
Yeah.
And like,
I
still can't
no,
get
I
around.
had that inclination, but I didn't want to just jump to that conclusion.
and like
but
nobody, and like his obsession with gore.
Yeah.
And when you
Yep.
met him the first
I
time,
thought
he
it
was
was
upset.
Shalelu.
And right, you even thought it was Shalelu,
right?
Up until she got kidnapped, and you were
I was
still like, oh. Like
I thought it was,
so
it was a ruse.
it
Yeah, you definitely overestimate us. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like for me, it just seemed like, but that made it more fun.
Well, yeah,
because it wasn't like session 1, episode 1, where you guys were like,
No, it's Foxglove, end of story.
We know everything and we're good. It's Foxglove. He's a ghoul. Okay. We'll go from here. We'll still deal with the challenges, but
The mystery solved.
But it was like as one of our posters said, it should have been like a lot of dun dun dun, type moments, and again there wasn't. So my favorite, I have 2.
Okay.
My favorite evocative element was I thought you guys did a really good job of playing scared, playing carefully, and genuinely being kind of freaked out when you guys were exploring the haunted house.
Oh, that's true.
Oh yeah, that was. I mean, that was trippy. Is
like
what it was.
like it's a natural state to be like, well, I'm a D&D character. I've got hundreds of hit points. I'm not afraid of no ghost. Just like,
you made the stamina not regenerate. I'm like, this is risky.
It was a hit points.
Oh, your hit points. Yeah, hit points. I'm like, this is risky.
And then everything was also attacking our hit points, so we couldn't do anything about it. So like, we have a vision,
right.
and then all of a sudden, roll. Okay, you take 10 damage.
I take that very seriously.
Yes. Oh yeah. So, but I thought you guys played it up well, and there was definitely that kind of this was creepy. There was a lot of like, you guys seemed like you were playing scared.
I also don't like scary stuff.
We knew we should have tied up the manticore. We knew it.
Okay.
I know we should have tied that thing up.
So that I from an evocative, from a story perspective, I thought session what would that be? Session 4, where you guys were at the misgivings.
Right.
Episode maybe 17 was the best. For me personally, though, like in terms of like actual, sort of moments of combat or excitement, my favorite D&D class is Wizard. And for every D&D caster who's ever played, even since 1974, you get to 5th level as a wizard. You get your access to your 3rd level spells. You get access to the spell Fireball. And it just changes everything.
Yeah, I know.
And so Burl got to 5th level.
Yep.
Had Fireball.
Yep.
Locked and loaded as a sorcerer. First session, murder mystery. Second session, interrogating this crazy guy and going back to town. All right. Third session, and Burl just let loose.
Fireball.
And just fireballed the hell out of all those ghouls.
Yep.
And just
took out the field, took out the side of the
house. He was like getting double teamed to the thing. The one was going for the horses. He nailed him with the acid.
Yes.
What about the one where he shot the guy that was invisible? With the fireball. I'm just going to throw fucking fireballs.
Yeah, the
into
judge,
space.
he goes, Kobe.
Yeah, and just blast him and hear him.
He loved throwing that thing around.
But just seeing Burl like unleash this tidal wave of devastation as someone who has played Wizards, it was very, very, that was very nice to see.
I love the fact too, when he did it on the side of the house, he was standing at the peak of the roof, looking down on him, going, bye, mother effers, and just fireball.
Yeah, just dropping bombs.
Oh, it was great. It was absolutely great.
So I thought that was really, really enjoyable. So, please leave a comment below. What was your favorite moment of Chapter 2, Skinsaw Murders? And, let us know what you're looking forward to the most as the kind of characters kind of proceed from that sort of entry level, because the first 2 adventures are done. Now we're going into sort of the middle tier of the adventuring path. Adventure 3 and 4, the party's going to be getting into their double digits here soon, into the teens. They're going to start unlocking some of the most powerful abilities in their characters. They've already started to deal with more supernatural challenges. So, these guys aren't just going to be steel and bone anymore. It's going to be a world of magic and spirits and strange happenings. So, let us know what you're excited about. If you've played the adventure before, please, no spoilers. But
yes, no spoilers.
Because this is their first time. Just let us know about anything else that you really enjoyed about the series so far to date. So, well, guys, I really appreciate you guys taking this time to talk about the game. And, hopefully next time you guys see us, we'll be in a brand new studio.
Yes.
Because if we play any games here, if you thought I was drunk before, in my own home.
If he doesn't have to drive to go anywhere, we're in trouble.
Yeah, that would be devastating.
But we'll be in a new place. Don't worry, guys.
So, all right. All right. Well, for everyone here at Knights of Last Call, I'm Derek Melenda saying thanks a lot, and we'll see you again soon.
Have a good one.